As an artist, one of the things you constantly have to do is take risks. And it might as well be a song or a project that you choose to do that. You could feel out the waters and do a different kind of song. Or you could completely wipe the slate clean and go in with a brand new project with a sound that nobody's ever heard before. That's exactly what it was like when I started listening to this project. I had the privilege and the honor of meeting Frank Lee a couple months ago, and he showed me part of this project in person. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to hear the fully fleshed out version. Now, coming into this project, my only real complaint is that the reverb on the very first track, Watch Them Spin, was a little bit too overly done. It just made me listen more intently to find those first couple words. But outside of that, that's the only real complaint that I have. As Frank's progression as an artist is being shown with this project, he's willing to take risks, but he's also becoming more conscientious with how he approaches his flow. I loved every track on here, with the exception of that little bit on Watch Them Spin. His flow stays consistent the whole time. He just doesn't let up. And when he decides to switch up flow in order to compensate for his breathing, that just shows how much more he really gets in tune with it. Now, on the flip side of things, Xisrupt is a producer that I found out about when I listened to his Bones placement, which has the song Rigor Mortis. I did not expect him and Frank to come together for a project, but coming to find out the backstory of the project, it was very enlightening to find out that it had happened. So it's really nice to see, after all the time that has passed and the multiple placements that Xisrupt has had with Bones, and a couple other people in the underground as well, Gizmo as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's really interesting to see that he's still willing to keep his ear to the ground for the other underground people, the people that aren't discovered, the people that aren't well established with a fan base. Frank still hits quite a few people with these projects. There's still a lot of people that listen to the songs, but it's not like a Bones track or Xavier Wolf track. There aren't hundreds of thousands of people willing to go onto SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever and then just trek to find a track. So it's really good to see that Xisrupt hasn't lost his home and he hasn't gotten big-headed about it. Not saying that he would ever do that. It's just some people would, and that's the toxic nature of this scene. And that's something that we're all trying to avoid being now. But that's just me, and that's what we also discussed in person. But nevertheless, this project definitely shows the twisted nature between how Frank actually thinks when it comes to overcoming fears and not being too far associated with his home. He grew up in West Virginia, and that's one of the biggest things that people would look at him and be like, oh, I can't even imagine a rapper from West Virginia. And you're wrong, because they're everywhere. There are people in Maryland, California, obviously, Wisconsin. There's people all over the U.S. that have an immense amount of talent. It's just a matter of time for them to be noticed. And Frank has definitely given his time, and in the process of him moving from state to another state, he's growing his fan base, and he's also growing his feelers out so everyone can listen to his music, not just a select few people. And that's just the power of the internet. One of my favorite songs on here is Cajun Chain. I really enjoyed this track. This is actually one of my favorite tracks from Frank Lee to date. And if he makes more tracks like these in the future, I wouldn't be surprised, but he's not a one-trick pony. He can come in and do a pure trap song, and he can be doing that over a ghost beat, or he could go over foreplay instrumentals and go hard in the paint with that. But it's just how everybody approaches their tracks. He chooses not to be one-dimensional. He can sing, he can rap, whether it's with the aid of autotune or not. There's also one last thing that I would like to talk about with this project. Knock Knock was a great way for it to end, and actually seeing how Frank could... I have no idea, and I still don't know, but he hit the highest note on Knock Knock. The highest note. And I don't know what it was. Vocal training, time spent. Feel free to ask him yourself if you're a fan of his music, but I really enjoyed every track on here. You and Xisrupt did a phenomenal job on this. Outside of the one little bit of reverb at the beginning with Watch Them Spin, that's the only issue that I had with it. I highly recommend you guys listen to it. And if you haven't heard any of Frank Lee's music, most of it is out on streaming services with the exception of June 6th, if I'm not mistaken. It might be up by now, I'm not sure. But look up Frank Lee on Google Play, Apple Music, whatever, and I'll leave a link for this in the description below as well as, including a link that has the Apple Music for this project. So, I think that's all I have to say. Tune in next week when I review the brand new Boast album, Sluggish. Until then, enjoy your weekend, stay selfish, peace.